Welcome to Living in Beauty. It's Monday, March 13, 2017, and we're parked on the Louisiana side of the Mississippi River. We've finished our southern crawl through the Louisiana Bayou on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and now we're weathering a brief cold snap in Natchez, the most hospitable city in the South, before we start out on the Natchez Trace. We've been here in Natchez for less than a day, and we're already receiving invitations. Visiting here is the thing. Nicest people you'll ever meet. It's a lazy, strolling town, a place to gaze at the ancient river rolling along or to admire the stately rows of mansions standing side by side like shy brides behind the moss-draped oaks. Chat with a gardener, duck into a coffee house or tavern for a bite or brew, and go out and stroll some more. Natchez is still the idyllic southern town. We were planning to spend a day here, and we'll probably stay for 3. Whether it's the relaxed, quiet, and pristine streets, the sweetness of the people, or the perfect spring weather, which we had yesterday, it's just tough to leave here. Like Bellingrath Gardens, we thought it would take an hour, and they just about had to kick us out. Mama loved that place. The last holiday she spent away from home was to visit Bellingrath Gardens. These grounds were often mentioned in Mama's stories about her childhood in Mobile, Alabama, and maybe they were her first inspiration to create her own 40-acre Southern Charm garden. In fact, all 4 of Mama's children caught her gardening bug. Each, in our own way, cultivate ornamentals, herbs, fruit, and vegetables for pleasure and recreation. While living in the city, my little potted garden kept me sane. So, with Mama in mind, we towed Beauty to the RV and bus parking lot at Bellingrath Gardens, about 20 miles south of beautiful Mobile, for our first tour of the 65-acre park. The estate is named for its founders, Walter Duncan, a prosperous Coca-Cola bottler in Mobile, and his wife, Bessie Mae Morse Bellingrath, who worked in the Coca-Cola office as a stenographer. They married in 1906 and resided in Mobile. The story of Bellingrath Gardens began when Walter got sick and went to the doctor. After a thorough Victorian examination, Dr. McGee delivered Walter the wonderful news that he would live a long life, if only he would just learn to relax and play. Evidently, the youngish, high-energy businessman and investor had just about worked himself to a frazzle. For the sake of Walter's health and well-being, change was prescriptive. So in 1917, the Bellingraths bought a rustic fishing camp on the Fowl River and moved out of their home on Ann Street to live in the country. Now, Bessie, already well known in Mobile for having the largest collection of azalea, would often invite her servants and their families to enjoy the grounds for picnics in the spring. On trips back to her old home, Bessie would dig up her azaleas, camellias, and begonia and haul them to the remote fishing post and transplant them along the riverside. Bessie and Walter named their thick, swampy, snaky retreat on the muddy fowl Bell Camp, perhaps because Bessie saw unlimited potential there. And conditions proved ideal. Each spring, Bessie's collection grew larger and more spectacular than the year before. Then, in 1927, Walter and Bessie went abroad for a grand European pleasure trip to view the finest public and private gardens in England, France, Italy. For Bessie, their cruise back to the States must have felt like forever, because this time she was hauling home a dream that would transform their lives. They hired the prominent Mobile architect George Bigelow Rogers to design Bell Camp into a fantasy garden surrounding a romantic, rustic home, complete with water features to channel the natural spring. About that time, the Great Depression was in full swing, but that didn't make no nevermind to Miss Bessie. She had the gardening bug worse than ever, and that was that. But in this agricultural area, nurseries to supply flowering shrubs, bulbs, and seeds were rare. My dad grew up in Alabama during the Depression, and he remembers that folks in this part of the country didn't starve because nearly everyone was a farmer who co-opted with other farmers. Still, it took money to buy farm equipment and necessities. So once the reality of those hard times set in, It didn't take long for word to spread far and wide that Bessie's substantial wallet was wide open. In no time, locals with vintage heirloom florals found their way to the Bellingrath Garden Gate. And over the years, as the economy recovered, mobilians caught Bessie's gardening bug too and adorned their lawns and edged their ponds with azaleas. With some of the best Sunday drives in America, it's a tough job to think of ways to make Alabama look better. But I still break for those gigantic eye-popping azaleas and wisteria, especially this time of year during peak season. Bessie and Walter first opened Bellingrath Gardens to the public for a walkthrough in 1932. Then, in 1934, the gates opened year-round for an entrance fee of 50 cents. In 1943, only 7 years after she moved into the new mansion, Bessie Morse Bellingrath died unexpectedly. The Bellingraths had no children, and after her death, Walter dedicated himself to the gardens of his beloved. In Bessie's honor, Walter, or Mr. Bell as his employees called him, formed a nonprofit trust for the continued operation and maintenance of the house and grounds in 1950. And the year before, in the summer of 1949, Mr. Bell placed an open invitation in the Mobile Press asking his fellow Gulf Coast residents to come to the gardens and help him celebrate his 80th birthday. Naturally, Mr. Bell's birthday party was a stunning success, and before the red velvet cake could be served, August 6, 1949 was declared Walter Bellingrath Day. Walter died in 1955 and left the bulk of his estate to the foundation. Because of what many people say, I went to Bellingrath expecting it to be a tribute to Coca-Cola, and thus the American dream of hard work, creativity, ingenuity, perseverance, and legacy. But to me, it was a love story and a gathering place for Southerners to reclaim a sense of history, home, and all that's right in the world. Bellingrath Gardens and Home is a place for lovers, dreamers, a place to safely take your problems and your memories and think them through. And it's a subtle but real and enduring tribute to a darn good doc who gave some tough medical advice to a hardcore American entrepreneur. Stop working so hard and learn again how to relax and play in the beauty and gentleness of nature. Thanks so much for joining us at Living in Beauty. Special thanks this week goes to Mr. Hillman, Daddy's contractor, who decided not to retire until he builds Daddy a new house right next to where the old one was that burned down 2 months ago. It's a big day this Wednesday. The new foundation will be poured, and Daddy will be on his way to being in his new wonderful house by fall. Okay, that's it. Have a great week.